How's it going, guys? So today we're going to be creating this text animation right here. It's pretty simple. It's pretty fun. Yeah, let's just dive right into it. Honestly, any Blender version should be able to create this. So don't worry about it. Whatever. Definitely have the latest version though. Some cool stuff is out there. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get a curve. And a circle, and then I'm going to go to the transform settings, and we're just going to rotate him 90 degrees on the y-axis, and then notice how it's kind of low poly in a sense. It's not really polygons, but you kind of get it. We're going to go down here to the curve settings and bump it up to 6:2 on both. That's very essential. Otherwise, it'll make your text look like that. It'll mimic that low poly look. Now let's go ahead and get that text. So Shift-A, get some text, and then I'm just going to type in text in all caps, because that's what I like. And then here in the alignment, so go to the text settings in the alignment, go to center and middle, and then on geometry, just go ahead and extrude it to your liking. And then we're going to go ahead and bevel it once. So you have this, but you know, no one likes the default Blender font. So go ahead and pick a font. Now for these, I highly recommend getting a very tall font. This one was too tall, but this one right here is pretty tall. Notice how, and what I mean by tall, notice this one or this one. This one's significantly taller. So I Googled free tall font. Right here, I'm using Posterman regular, so you can use that one or any font you like. This is completely up to you. Now these are kind of touching and doing all that weirdness, so I'm going to go down here to spacing and just kind of space it out a little bit. All right, now we're ready to have some fun. We're going to go ahead and add a modifier. We're going to add in a curve modifier and select the Bezier circle. And then what I can do here on the text and get is rotate it on the x-axis by -90 degrees. And then the smaller the curve, the more it's going to bend your text. And that's really what's going to create that really nice circular look. But as you can see, we're really revealing the horrible topology here. So what we need to do is remesh this, because if we go to the wireframe, that is what we're working with. Not entirely stable if we're trying to deform things. So what you can do is click on this guy, go to the modifiers, and add in a remesh modifier, and then slide it above the curve. What I'm going to do is use smooth, uncheck disconnect, and click on smooth, and bring up your octree to whatever you like, or whatever your computer can handle. The higher, the closer it's going to look to the real thing. I like 8. 8's nice. So now we have this. What I'm going to do is go to the right click. What I'm going to do is hit the tilde key. It's right above the tab key. I'm going to click right so we can now position the rest of this text. So I'm going to hit Shift D. And then if I just hit G and keep it on this little green axis, you'll be able to bring it something like this. Now he is upside down, but that's perfect. That's what we want. Right click, tilde key, sorry. So if we go here, we can see this guy, but hitting G and just kind of looking at this anchor point, which is right over here, you can kind of judge if he is going to be in the right positioning or not. I think he is. I'm gonna hit Shift D now, and then hit G and bring it on this little blue line now. Go back to the tilde key here, hit G, and bring it like this. In fact, I'm going to make my circle here bigger. Cool. And then we need to reposition all of our things. So just keep it on that green line. Something like this. Cool. Then we take this guy. Again, this blue line is just an excellent guide for us as to if this is going to work properly. And it's okay if they're touching. We're going to size that later. I'm going to hit Shift D and do the same thing over here. So keep it on the blue line. And the blue line will kind of rotate it. Awesome. Now I'm going to select all of these guys. Right up here, I'm going to go to individual origins and hit S. Just scale them so they're not touching. We don't want them to touch. Perfect. Look at that. Look at that. But remember, when you're moving these around, watch the anchor point on these axes. The up and down is your right and left, things like that. And then you can scale it later. Okay, that is how you do this. It's very cool. Now we want to be able to rotate them all at the same time, and so we need to parent them to something. So I'm going to go ahead and get an empty. So Shift A, empty, plane axis. I'm gonna select everything, including the curved circle, which is right there. Then select this new empty, Control P, object. And so now if we click on the empty and hit R, we can move it around. But notice how it's laggy? That's because this is still live text, live remesh. And so if your computer can handle it, or if you're happy with the lag, you can keep it. What I do though, because I hate lag, I'm gonna hit Shift D and just duplicate this over here. Keep it out of the way. I'm gonna not highlight, but hold down Shift and select all these, right click, convert to mesh. That automatically applies everything. So now if I hit R, look at that, it's nice. Now it is destructive, but I already know this is as far as I'm going with my decision making. But again, we still have this duplicate up here that we can, do whatever we want with. But this guy is perfectly stable and we can animate it. How nice is that? So what we can do now is just go ahead and move it up. I'm gonna get in a plane under it, hit S to scale it. I'm gonna hit Tab, go to the edge select, and then hit E for extrude and Z to extrude it on the Z axis. We're just making a quick seamless background. We're gonna get a bevel modifier. Right click, shade smooth. All right, cool. And then now what we can do is, let's click on this empty. I want my viewport to look nice. So I'm gonna hit this drop down up here, turn on cavity and shadow. Cool. All right, now we need to create a material for this text and this background. So what we're gonna do is go here to the shading tab, go to the camera view, and I like to look at it in cycles. So I'm gonna click on the cycles button here and then turn off scene world, scene light, so we can kind of see it as it is. So what I'm gonna do, collapse these windows, click new. We're gonna make it metallic and get in a color ramp. Let's make this background. Let's make this background here a new material and just make it a very light blue, something like that. And then we'll click back on this text. Plug the color ramp into the base color. We're gonna get in a layer weight and we're gonna use facing on the layer weight so you can kind of see how that looks. And I'm gonna get 3 colors here. So we're gonna go red, green, blue. So red, you can click on this guy here and then just bring these sliders back so we get pure red. Over here, we're gonna get pure blue. So blue. And then on this one we're gonna give it kind of a more unique color. So keep the green all the way here and keep the red at 0.5, 0.5. So now that we have that, let's just bring our roughness down. So this looks awesome. And we're gonna bring our blend to 0.91. And now we have this really nice looking material. So what I'm gonna do now is click on this guy, this guy, this guy by holding down Shift, and then click this last, Control L, link materials, and now look how cool that is. It's awesome. And we can make it more glossy too to really give it that effect. All right, now we need to animate in light. So animating it is very simple. We're just gonna give myself 120 frames. Hover over here and hit the back arrow to frame 0. Give myself 120 frames. Go to this here. Make sure you have that empty selected so we can rotate it. Click that, go to the end, type in 360. And now we have this really nice looking text. I mean, having a nice bold font really does the difference. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do a 3-point lighting setup. So I'm gonna go ahead, get a light right here and use an area light, bring that up, bring that right above. I like to use circular lights. So I'm gonna go here and go from square to disc. And then I'm gonna hit S to kind of scale it up, bring it up, and then bring my power up like this. So we could just settle for this. I'm gonna click on my camera icon and go here to the color management, and we're gonna go to high contrast. All right, so we'll go back to the area light here and then bring down that strength because it is a bit much, and we're gonna do more than that. So we have this light. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate it by hitting G, and then R twice to rotate. So now we have that light coming this way, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So Shift D, R twice to point it. So now we have something really, really nice. What I'm going to do is hit tab, go to the face select, and I'm going to bring this guy back. I want the background to be farther away, so there's a bit more of a light gradient. Notice how that creates more of a smooth gradient. So if I hit Control Z, notice how when it's back there, it's kind of the same. It's very, very slight gradient. But again, if you bring it back, you create a much more interesting, much better gradient. Now if I press play, I mean, how cool. How cool is that? Render image. And this is how the rendered out image looks. If you're fine with seeing that, then cool. But then again, you can just bring up that octtree depth. Or actually in this case, could you just subdivide it and remove that? Or are we long gone? Yep, we're long gone. You'll have to remesh again or something. Smoothing it out does it. If you add a smooth modifier and then bring it in, that does help a little bit. But honestly, I am perfectly fine with it. So if you're perfectly fine with it, rock and roll. You can also, in terms of your lighting, you can add an HDRI just for some extra stuff to kind of fill out those shadows if you like. Maybe go to like 0.1. That might help you with some reflections if that bothers you. But really, we're done here. It looks awesome. It's just super cool looking. So what I'm going to do here is give my samples at 300. You can denoise if you like. I like the noise, so I'm going to keep it at 300 and then click on the little printer icon. I'm going to go here from PNG to FFmpeg video. Now, if you want to do a PNG sequence, just leave it as is. If you want Blender to compile a animation for you so you don't have to do the PNG sequence, go to FFmpeg video, encoding to MP4, medium quality to perceptually lossless render animation. And when you're done, you're going to have something really nice looking. So there you guys go. This was fun. It's just like a perfect cylinder. I mean, how nice is this? Use a bold font. Nice tall text. All right. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.